advice for folks who want to get more leverage out of their podcasts, or how can they think about the distribution side?
Yeah, totally. Just in your statement, you're like some people like start the podcast and then can't get it to work and they can't get it off of
Yeah.
season one. Like business leaders need to reframe this about the podcast is a requirement. It's not optional, and
Hmm.
it's definitely going to work. It's just whether or not you can make it work for you. So if the
Hmm.
podcast isn't working, it has nothing to do with the podcast. Podcasts work, and people of all professions listen to podcasts. It's just that they
Yeah.
don't listen to yours because yours is not valuable to them, or you haven't been able to help them see that it's valuable for them.
Yeah.
And so when we think about sort of like creating extra leverage for the podcast, a couple of key points of advice that I give, and I just see consistently people miss here. Number one is consistency. Like the idea that you are a 5,000 person B2B company and you're going to produce your podcast once a month or twice a month is out of this world. You have the resources, you have the talent. You need to figure out minimum once a week to figure out how to produce that podcast and get it out because of a couple things. You get downstream micro content distribution that you won't have enough if you only do it once a week
Right.
or twice a week. The more important thing is that if you do it once a week, just like if you go to the gym once a week or you shoot free throws once a week instead of once a month, you get better at it faster.
Right.
And so there's a huge element of just organizational or personal progression of explaining the concepts better, communicating more effectively, practicing the messaging, things like that. So consistency is a really big one.
Yeah.
The next thing that I see companies that think because the podcast is a brand activity that it needs to be so far away from what the company actually does so that people don't think that they're being salesy.
Hmm.
And the reality is that the number one thing that you should be accomplishing in a podcast is communicating your business's narrative or evangelizing the category, it's basically the same thing, however you want to look at it. And if your podcast isn't doing that effectively, then it's not going to make a business impact. And it's just you creating a show for the sake of brand.
Right.
And so that's another one. Like if you can evangelize your category without being salesy, it's called having the right intent, right? Like I
Yes.
talk about the category of my product all the time, and I can do that, and I have zero intent that anyone listening to this podcast or coming to my live events or anything like that ever buy from me. So there's a way to communicate your message with conviction without being salesy.